everyone, it's Teresa, and I just want to welcome everyone to my YouTube channel, Teresa B DIY. If you're new here, thank you for checking everything out. If you're not new here, thanks for coming back and checking out another Christmas DIY video. Today, obviously, we're going to be making some ornaments. There are 7 on here. I tried to mix up a little bit of different types of ornaments as far as like styles and everything, so I hope there's something here that you will enjoy. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and check me out over on Instagram. And I hope everyone's having an absolutely wonderful Thanksgiving week, and I will see you guys next time. All right, so our first one we're going to do is a cross because obviously, I mean, it's Christmas. So we're just going to take these Jenga blocks and we're going to just start gluing them together. So first I made kind of like the horizontal part, and I really should have made it 2 rows thick. So if you repeat this, keep that in mind. I thought it looked a little bit narrow. But then I'm going to just start basically just gluing them all together, and just make sure when you're doing this that your glue is hot, because as you can see here, it wasn't hot enough. So I had to kind of go back in, scrape it off, and then put it down. So I'm just putting it all together. See, again, like I said, wasn't hot enough. Is anyone else like that when you're waiting for your glue gun to heat up enough? You're just kind of like ready to go and you put it on and then you're like, oh, well, that was totally not hot enough. So there you go. It is all together. And then I'm going to take a bit of this antique wax from Folk Art, and I'm just going to kind of brush it on a little bit messily, I guess. I'm not going for like a full coverage. I'm not going to wipe off excess, anything like that. So I just took a very small, brush just to kind of glaze over it. You want to make sure that you're getting like the tops and the sides, and depending on how you want to do it and how full your tree is, you might want to do the back. Obviously that is where I'm going to put the ribbon to hang the tree, to hang it on the tree. So it's just kind of your own personal preference. So I'm just going in, like I said, painting it with that wax. And if you feel like you get too much in any area, you take a little like slightly dampened cloth, you can wipe it off pretty easily, or at least like smudge it around a little bit. So next I'm just going to take some twine, and I put a knot in at the bottom, and I'm just going to put some glue, hot glue over that, and press it down a little bit, smear it around to try to cover a little bit more of it, and then I'll add a little bit more. And that one is done. So next we're going to do a little rustic, very rough Christmas tree out of these little cubes. And at first I had like measured it all out, figured out how many I needed on the bottom and everything. And then I started doing it and I just kept going. Then I was like, oh wow, Teresa, that's a lot. You have way too many. So I was like, okay, I'll come back in a second. And then I just started to putting them together, and then I believe that's when I realized I should probably just go ahead and take the other one apart. So this is going to be my bottom row, and they're pretty easy to break apart, so keep that in mind. If you want like a really good strong hold, you want to go in with some wood glue. So it just kind of depends on how much you really want to have this thing stick together. So I go in, and I believe I did, I want to say it was like 6 on the bottom, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And so this way it's very much like a tree. And then what I'm going to do is I put them all together, like the horizontal rows all together, and then I'll stack them on top of each other with the glue. And see, I had a little bit of glue. One thing you don't want to ever do, don't put hot glue on like already dried glue. It doesn't work. And then I was looking at it, and I'm like, basically right now what it looks like is just a little tiny stack of blocks like you would have for like a kid's toy. So I decided it needed a little something else. So I put the little stump down there. And this is Fern from Waverly, and I was just kind of going with like a very traditional green color. So again, I'm going to do the same thing where I'm just kind of going over really rough with it, just to give it like a good you obviously want it to be green, but at the same time I wanted some of that wood to come through. And there I think I knocked something down on top of my glue stick, my glue gun. And then I'm going to go in again with that same not Waverly, I'm sorry, Folk Art Antique Wax. So then I was just noticing I had missed a couple of spots with the green, so I'm going to go over that again with the green. And he's a little rustic too, so we're just going to do, I think I end up doing this with ribbon. Yep, I just take some burlap looking ribbon. It's I'm going to glue it down and make almost like a little bit of a, I don't even know what to call it, almost like, you know, for like a ribbon that, yeah, anyways. Next, we're going to go ahead and take this Santa sleigh ornament from Dollar Tree apart, and I'm going to kind of just snip everything out. This one does have some tiny little pins in it, and so be careful about those. You definitely want to remove those if you take this thing apart, because those are teeny tiny little sharp things, and just be careful. So what I will do next is I'm just going to go ahead and sand down where those holes were, just to give me a little bit smoother area to work with. I mean, you can skip this step if you want to, because you are going to glue something back down on top of those little rails. So it's kind of up to you, personal preference. And I decided just to kind of go over it a little bit with sanding just to get it a little smoother. And I'm going to go in with Crimson from Waverly to give it, I believe I ended up doing 2-3-ish coats. So next I'm going to use my giant popsicle sticks. I'm going to score it. And then I will go in with my scissors to cut off the rounded area. I don't like to just go straight in with the scissors. I feel like my sides kind of chip and flake away, because I mean, it's only a popsicle stick. So, and then I'll measure the rest and cut the rest, and that way they're all done. I did end up doing 4 here. I only ended up using 3, which you'll see in just a minute. So, and see, I'm doing the 4, then I was like, no, it's too little too big, so we're just going to do 3, and I picked my best 3, so I switched it out for a different one. That one ended up having a little bit of slices coming off of it, so we're just going to glue that down on top of there, and get that nice and pressed down. And I end up starting off gluing it down, and I messed up on one where it wasn't sticking like I wanted it. So the first one ended up being good, and then the second one I think I needed more glue, or it wasn't pushed all the way down or something, so that came off. And then I'm going to put a little dowel rod down at the bottom to give it a little bit more support, because the top has that little Merry Christmas part that's holding it, so I thought the dowel was needed. And it's pretty much done. I'm just going to put some twine through that little opening and tie it up. I'm going to leave it a little longer than I normally would, because in my mind it's like, oh, it's like a rope, like you would have a sleigh. A sled. Like you would have a sled. And there you go, all finished. Next, we're going to take one of these little Christmas tree holders. I don't really know what it's supposed to be holding. So I have some that I've already broken apart, and rather than have you watch me suffer through the whole process, here it is. And first I paint one side with moss from Waverly, and then once that's dried, I'm going to go in with some a mixture of the moss and a mixture of truffle. And I'm late. I didn't feel like getting anything else to put it on, so I'm just using one of these little light boxes. It worked out just fine. And what you can't really see too much here is it does have like that little burned spots on it, so I'm going to make it kind of a little bit more pronounced, and I'm just going to put over that slightly darker greenish brown color. Give it a little bit of shadow. And now we're going to go in with this folk art paint. It is white Adirondack, and I'm going to give a snowed look to it. I'm going to do a lot more than what I normally would. I really want this to look like completely covered in snow. So I do use a little chip brush from Dollar Tree and dry brush on more of it in the middle, like the dry brush, whereas on the branches part, it's definitely a lot thicker with the snow. I feel like it kind of helps blend in those little burnt parts on there. So I'm pretty happy. I go back and forth, like, should I do more to it? Should I leave it like it is? And I kind of just decide I'm going to leave it like it is, make it nice and simple and pretty. So, and I'm just going to do just a simple burlap ribbon. I was like, should I add a star? Should I leave it alone? And I just kind of went with simpler is better sometimes. So it's all finished and we're on to the next one. So the other side of that thing, I went ahead and did Fern. This is going to be like my super traditional looking tree. So I did Fern. I'm not going to add anything as far as like shadowing or snow or anything like that, but I am going to put lights on it. So I have one of these little light sets from Walmart. You could easily use one from Dollar Tree. I decided on the Walmart one because it has a timer. So what I didn't show though is I actually used some Velcro. I hot glued some Velcro to the light box as well as the tree. That way you can take it on and off, switch out batteries, and take out the batteries when you're going to store it so it doesn't decide to not work when you're ready for it next Christmas. And then I'm just going to start stringing the lights all around. I was originally going to try to make it do like a really pretty pattern. Not that it matters considering you can't see it here, but I was going to try to do a pretty pattern. But problem is like the lights the way they are, I didn't want to hot glue anything onto it in case I wanted to take it off. That way I was only leaving like part of it on there. You know what I mean, like the Velcro part. So I just decided I'm just going to do it and go crazy with it, and I'm going to tuck in the wire as it's done. That way I didn't have to use any glue. I could take it off if I wanted to. And see, it's red. It does a blinking, a solid, or like a fading one. So it's really cool. I liked it. I'm a fan. And most of the little bulbs are on the front side. There are a couple on the back. And then I'm just going to do just a traditional like red ribbon. It's got like a little bit of a sparkle to it that you can't really see here, but I'll just put that in at the top. And you want to use a fair amount of glue on here because it's going to be heavy with the batteries in that, pack. Now we're going back to our Santa from that sled. And I won't have you watch, but I end up taking all of the stuff off the front. I didn't want to traumatize anybody with, scraping all the face off of Santa. So I'm going to use the back though. I do go ahead and just sand off any little spots where that adhesive was for the rails. And I'm going to use one of these large ornaments. This one is also from the Dollar Tree. And we're just going to take this little guy apart. Be careful, the metal part is metal, so if you do use your heat gun, it does heat up, just to let you know. And this one, the little burlap stuff came off pretty easily, and at first I was like, I'm going to sand it down and I'm going to use the front. And I quickly come to the conclusion I don't have that kind of time in my life right now to sand that all down. So we're just going to use the back part. Wipe it all clean to get it ready, and we're going to use this really pretty paper, not this side right here with the elves, which is cute, don't get me wrong, it's cute with the elves. Maybe I'll use the rest of it for something else. So we go ahead and trace it out, cut it out, and now we're going to glue it down. And I'm using this red shimmery paper. We're going like super traditional with this one. Sorry, the kids came in, ready for mommy to approve having some candy. So, like I said, super traditional, and I just trim off the top because I am going to add in that little galvanized part on the top. And I always cut it a little bit big just because I would prefer to trim the paper off of it like I am doing here. This is just like a ceramic knife edge part of not even an X-Acto knife. If I can find it, I'll link it below. This is actually something I got for my birthday. My husband did a pretty good job, so yay him. Hopefully Santa will be doing as good of a job with some things coming up. But there it is, all set, and I'm like, oh yeah, good, it fits. Just wait and see. Oh, don't look at him. It's dramatic. We're just gonna go ahead and put down the glue, and we're gonna just glue it right onto it. Pretty easy to do. Now, if you make this, just be forewarned, put it further down. Put it further down on the ornament because you'll see in a minute, I ended up having to like trim down the galvanized metal part, and it was no easy task. I do not recommend it. That right there, I had to like bend it and just do all kinds of stuff. So I decided it needed a little more than just the ribbon, holding it. And so I'm going to use this little Joy galvanized word. I like to scruff up the back because otherwise it doesn't really hold the hot glue that well. So here it is. It's all finished and we're on to the next one. I have to say this is by far my favorite. So this little guy, this little bear came from the Target dollar spot. It was just $1. And I'm going to take this buffalo plaid print and I'm going to glue it to his body. Don't worry about the down at the bottom. You see the little spots where it went into the stand. Don't worry about it. We're gonna work on that in just a minute. So you're gonna just put it down there, and then you're going to get rid of all the excess paper. It's not as hard as I thought it was gonna be, like the little areas between his legs. So I started on those first. I'm like, well, I'm gonna do this first. This way I don't commit to it too much if it's impossible. It ended up being not too difficult. So if you have a really small X-Acto knife, you can definitely get away with it. So you just trim it out as best you can with your blade, and then you go on the other side because you'll still be able to see, like what areas you've already cut. So not too bad. And then you're just going to trim down the rest, and I'm probably going to do it way too slow. But they also had a bird. So if you got a thing about birds, they have a bird. I've seen the bears, and I've seen it online that they had a reindeer, and I haven't seen him though in person. So he must either be hard to find or mine doesn't have him or something, because I'd have him too. And I think I have 3 of these, so I'm probably going to do something. I'll probably end up doing a few different things. So just like I said, across the middle part like that, you're not going to worry about how great it is on his little notches that go in the stand, because we're going to do something else to cover that up. Like I said, if you have any problems with any areas, just flip it back over and find where you're doing it, and you'll be good. You'll be golden. Today I will be done, I promise. Okay. So we're just going to clean it all up. If there's any little spots that look like they're hanging over too much, if it's a little rough, you're just going to go in and kind of clean it up, fix it. So see, we're going to put the little stand in front of him, and I should have done either a better job cleaning off that sticker. I tried. I did like rubbing alcohol and Goo Gone, but we're going to do our little Cricut decal. It says Berry Christmas. How cute can that be? I thought it was adorable. I was like, I'm doing it. I was thinking about it, and I was like, let me look it up if this is a thing. And it is a thing. So I was like, okay, not the first to do it. So I do the little Berry Christmas. And again, if you do this, paint your little sign that's going in front of them, because the sticker was there and I wasn't very happy about it. But I glued it down, and then I was like, okay, I glued it down, and now I'm going to add this little wreath to his neck because it's adorable. So I get one of those little twisty tie wreath holder things from Dollar Tree. I don't remember what they're called. And I'm going to trim it up a little bit, and you're going to do more trimming than that in a minute. But I'm going to go ahead and glue it to his neck. And as I'm doing this, of course, I couldn't wait until the glue dried, so he kind of falls apart a little bit, but that's okay. I'll show you. We're going to fix that. So I'm just going to glue it down, and then I'm going to use like a ton of hot glue. You're going to put it all in the little nooks and crannies, and you're going to just basically make a seam where all of that, like the wood is connecting. So you're going to use, if you do this, use more glue than you think you need. That way it does not come apart. And then here I'm going to just prop it up so it doesn't fall down, and I'm going to let it dry and adding any other glue to any other spots that I might have missed. Like I said, it ends up being a lot. So now I'm going to go ahead and go in with a detail pair, like a little tiny pair of scissors, Dollar Tree as well. And you're just going to trim up that little wreath. They're very, very furry. So if you're going to do anything like this with it, I definitely recommend trimming it, because there's too much otherwise. So like I said, it's a lot of trim in it, and it's going to make a big mess. Be prepared if you end up deciding to do this. So he's pretty much done with his lovely little thing, but we're going to do something about that sticker that you can see. So first we're going to do like a little of a snow effect right on the top part. And then I'm going to start to kind of like move it down a little bit. And I come to the conclusion that, obviously I can't do it over the white because it wouldn't really work. So we're going to go in a little bit with this antique wax, and you're going to just do it kind of near the letters. One thing that's nice, because it is a wax, if it gets on the vinyl, you can just wipe it right off. So if you're like me and you mess up on things and try to find ways to fix it, here's a way. Don't worry about it on your vinyl. So we'll just go over, any little spots, trying to blend in where that little sticker was. And I discovered this while I was trying to clean it up. If you take one of those little rounds and you rub it off on the top part, it kind of looks a little snowish, like gives it a little texture. And I was happy with it. So I'm just going to glue down a red ribbon to the top. You'll hold it down just a little bit just to make sure it's all in there. And when you flip it over, you'll be all finished. And here are all of our ornaments all finished up, and I really had a good time on this project, and I hope you did too, and I'll see you next time.